And that's really one of the things that kind of the American experiment, I guess if you can call it that, was really rooted in this idea. It's kind of Lockean, which you and I have studied a little bit years ago. But this idea of kind of the rugged individualism, that there's something about human beings that are meant to be individuals. And that's a beautiful thing. There's something powerful about that. What is it that allowed, in your opinion, what is it that allowed the individualism of the American mindset for so long to work? Whereas today it seems like maybe it's not working like it used to.
Yeah. I think we had a shared value around the value of that individualism as one thing. And so we kind of valued that concept, that pioneering spirit. I mean, that's at the heart of America. And it's still today, when you look at entrepreneurship, you look at other sorts of pioneering efforts in our country. But it also, I think, our country had a very healthy, virtuous underpinning to it, for the most part. There were certainly stains. We're talking about that today with our passive slavery and whatnot. But in terms of the religious background of the majority of the people, the terms of people having a shared sense of what is right and what is wrong, there wasn't a lot of confusion in terms of, should I murder my neighbor or not? And so those sorts of things that didn't need to be codified in our founding documents, because there was an assumption that the goodness of the people was being developed through these non-governmental ways, allowed for that flourishing to take place, because government didn't have to worry about that. The churches were taking care of that. The families were taking care of that. And so that's the assumption that I think America had towards its founding, that certainly is different in terms of what that looks like today. And then we have to ask, as a society, what are the grounding principles that allow for that same sense of goodness of a people to continue even when we're in a more secular, non-religious environment?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the question. Obviously, many years earlier, the good society, people's ability to define the good was probably easier. There was less diversity of opinion in terms of what the good is. Whereas now, as the pendulum seems to be swinging, back and forth farther, the idea of the good is becoming less clear. And so to say that there's a common cultural understanding of what the good is today, that's not that clear, is it?
No, it's not that clear. And there has been an interesting shift. If you think about when I was in college in the 90s, there was this, moral relativism coming out of or cultural relativism coming out of the anthropology departments, a little bit out of the philosophy departments in a university setting, was the rage of the day. And so there was a lot of questioning around everything's up in the air. We can't say anything's true. Can't say anything's right. Everything's relative. Even though people didn't act like that, fortunately, people acted as if there were certain absolute ideas. But today, I think, in the wake of certain social justice interests, it's almost like the folks who decided in the 90s that there was no truth, there was no morality, all of a sudden have gotten a conscience and now are raging with, we know what absolute right and absolute wrong is, coming from a different angle, not a religious angle. So it's an interesting cultural transition we're facing. I think today, the idea of moral imperatives, moral absolutes, coming from a different angle, where it's actually stronger perhaps than it's ever been. It's just, we have to understand where that's coming from.
Yeah.